feels like I'm against the brand and the brand's against me, when really it's a partnership. Y'all are coming together like, hey, I like what you got, you like what I got. Hey y'all, it's Kim with a K, coming to you guys with a new YouTube video. Today we are getting into some legal tea. For those that don't know, I am an attorney, content creator, YouTuber, and entrepreneur. With my attorney hat, I also am an influencer marketing consultant. And what I do is I help other influencers, content creators, and entrepreneurs navigate the contract space when it comes to brand partnerships, entertainment agreements, and so many other things. So if that sounds of interest to you, definitely stay tuned because we're going to be getting into I showed my cup today. Some tea. The legal tea. Alright y'all, so the importance of contracts. Let me just sum it up for y'all. If you are being legally obligated to do something and there's no contract terms, how will you know exactly what you need to do, when you need to do it, how you need to do it? Sure, you can go through your email thread and like Control F and try to figure out, or it could just be in a document. One document that says what you need to be doing, when you need to be doing it, how you gonna get paid, when you gonna get paid, who gonna pay you, how often you gonna get paid, all about the payment. I feel like that's like a big part of contracts. Like payment terms is so important, but also the termination clause, because how can you get out of this partnership? Are they gonna have to pay you if they decide to just randomly cancel the campaign? There's so many different things and nuances that are so important to have in a contract, okay? Because also, if they don't pay you, you wanna have some kind of legal recourse, right? So there's just so many levels and layers. Oh, also, you want to know where your content's going, okay? You want to know who is the rightful owner, who has copyright privileges, who is able to use your content in certain different ways. Is there a license to your content? Who actually has the license to your content? Who is the actual owner of your content? Listen, you need a contract. Because think about it like this. I would never go into a partnership with another business owner without having something in writing. It's the same thing with brand partnerships. Even though sometimes it may be just this one-off thing you do with a brand that you love, you still need a contract. And let me just add this little caveat here, because I get a lot of questions about gifting opportunities. Does there need to be a contract with gifting opportunities? Long story short, yes, but asterisk, if the brand is just sending you products or their merchandise or their digital product, whatever the case may be, if they're sending you something and they're not requiring you to do anything in exchange for that something, I say sure. You don't necessarily need a contract. What I would suggest is in that email thread, because email communication can be legally binding depending on the nature of it and the nature of the contract that you sign after the email thread, etc. But in that email thread with a gifting opportunity that is not obligating or requiring you to do anything, make sure that you tell them, upon me accepting this gifting opportunity, I am not obligated or required to create any type of content, do any marketing or promoting of the product in any way, shape, or form. If you would like that level of connection, if you would like that level of a partnership, and or if you would like those certain deliverables, I'd be glad to discuss a paid opportunity. So be clear, be concise, and be just open and honest with the brand. I think that's a lot of times where contracts can feel so scary because it feels like I'm against the brand and the brand's against me, when really it's a partnership. Y'all are coming together like, hey, I like what you got, you like what I got. Let's figure out how we can build this beautiful piece of artwork, which is content creation a lot of times. So just throwing that out there. Yes, there are very minimum times that you might not necessarily need a contract, but always just make sure that both people understand what's going on if you don't have that contract. That was helpful when it comes to the importance of contracts. You really need something in writing, okay? For your protection and theirs, okay? So now let's get to a couple definitions. I'm gonna do a whole video on a plethora of definitions within the influencer marketing industry. So if there are any terms you're just like, girl, I have no idea what they talk about, okay? I seen this abbreviation and I was like, butterfly in the sky. Leave them down in the comment section below. I'd be glad to include that in that video once I kind of get my definitions together, because of course there's the Webster definitions and definitions all over the internet, but I want to be able to provide you guys with definitions to these influencer marketing terms from a legal perspective as well as a creator perspective, where I'm able to really bridge the gap between those two categories and come up with the best definition for my fellow creators. So stay tuned for that, but leave me some comments and questions and concerns down below if you guys have any terms you guys want me to focus on that. So we're gonna just focus on a few in this video. So the first one is gonna be ownership. So when you look up the word ownership, if you Google it, you're gonna see that it says the act, state, or right of possessing something, or something like that. So essentially, ownership is the possessing of something. So you wanna make sure when you see the term ownership in your contracts, ooh, I hope y'all got y'all notebooks ready, because if you see the term ownership, you want to really first off, read the whole contract, okay? Read the whole contract. But you really want to understand who is the owner, who is possessing this content, because that is so important with the way that that content can be used by both parties within the agreement, right? Because if the brand owns that content, that means you might not have a right to use that content in ways that you could just do whatever with, right? Because if they are the rightful owner, you'd have to then ask them for privileges to use your content. It's crazy. I know it's crazy, but that's tea. So for example, they might say, okay, now that they're the owner, let's say you signed that contract, which I know you didn't because you worked with me, but let's say you signed a contract where you gave them ownership rights, where they were the complete and full owner. They were the rightful owner of this content. For some reason you did that. Okay, it's a hypothetical. So if you did that, you could literally see your photo on billboards, on magazines, in a commercial, in TV shows, etc. And they don't have to pay you anything, because you wanna know why? They're the owner. Yeah, they have the right to possess that content, or whatever we're talking about in this context. So you wanna make sure that you understand who has the right to possess the content, because when you have the right to possess the content and you have complete ownership of it, you can do whatever with the content. And when you don't, you gotta ask for permission. Which is a benefit for you if you are the rightful owner, right? Because then that brand has to constantly come back to you to ask for your permission to use the content, and therefore you can charge them each and every time. Which is why I don't agree to perpetuity. So let's talk about perpetuity, because I wasn't even gonna include this term, but if y'all know me, if you've been following me for a while, you know perpetual use, perpetuity, we don't do that. Perpetuity means forever. The right to use something forever, the right to do something forever. Forever is a long time, okay? So I always suggest to my clients to really think about, do you want this brand to use that content forever? And at first it may seem like, oh, whatever, it's not a big deal. But remember, if you are the owner, they have to come back to ask for permission to use that content. But if you give them perpetual use, or the right to use the content in perpetuity, they don't have to keep coming back. So they don't have to keep they don't have to keep paying, right? They can just pay that one-time fee and that's it. And I always tell my clients that this is the best way to explain it to a brand. If you're like, I'm nervous, I don't know what to say, think about it like this. The brands that had campaigns last Christmas, no matter what year we're talking about, no matter what year you're watching this, last Christmas, I would bet you they're not going to be using the same style of campaign for this current year, for Christmas, right? Marketing changes, trends change. They want to use new, fresh ideas and new, fresh campaign launches and things like that. So why does a brand really need it forever? They don't. I think it's just a standard contract that these brands keep using. I hate the whole standard contract. It'd be killing me. I think there are some aspects in the contract that can be standard, which is why I love templates, because they're customizable and personalization that you can do within those templates. But just like this overarching, this is the standard contract, it cannot be changed, like, please. You know what, that's a rant for another day. Okay, so we talked about ownership and perpetuity and perpetual use. I also want to quickly touch on the word copyright. I feel like this term is thrown around on the internet. Oh my goodness. So I'm actually gonna just read it from the copyright website. I also will leave it linked down below. But essentially, copyright is a type of intellectual property that protects original works of authorship. As soon as an author fixes the work in a tangible form of expression. So what is original work, right? So works are original when they are independently created by a human author and have minimal degree of creativity. So they also define fixed work, and then here we go. Who is a copyright owner? Everyone is a copyright owner. Once you create an original work and fix it, like taking a photograph, writing a poem or blog, or recording a new song, you are the author and the owner. So it goes into more detail about that, and I can do a whole video on copyright. But essentially, if I pull out my phone right now and I take a picture, I am the copyright author and owner. I own that copyright of that image that I just took because I took it. So this comes into play a lot in content creation when we work with photographers, because if you don't have a contract with that photographer, they could be the copyright owner because they took the photo. Just because you're in the image doesn't mean that you own that copyright, unless there's an agreement between you and the photographer, or there's an understanding. I say understanding is cute and fine and dandy, but you want to get something in writing at least, or in an email or something, so they know that you have the right to use that image. An example would be, let's say a photographer took a picture of you, it ends up in Vogue magazine and all the other amazing places because the photo was great, you looked phenomenal. And technically that photographer, if there was no agreement, or if they never said that you were now the owner and the copyright owner of that, they could sue you and wherever other outlets that they were going, because they are the original copyright owner. So you want to make sure that that is clear terms when we're working with photographers, but also in our brand partnership agreements. You want to make sure that you're not signing over your copyright, okay? Or your intellectual property in general, but you want to make sure you're not signing over that copyright to that brand, because this goes back to the ownership thing. Then now they are the copyright holder. So just how that photographer could come after you, now the brand can too. Oh, the tea is hot. Okay, y'all, if the lighting has changed, I'm just trying to use natural lighting, so I'm sorry in advance. Hope it's not too distracting. But okay, jumping into licensing. So I actually have a really good analogy, if I'll just say so myself, when you're trying to figure out what is licensing and usage rights, because a lot of times they're really connected, but they're not the exact same thing. So when you Google licensing, it says a license, I was gonna try to memorize it, y'all, but I'm about to look to the side respectfully. But a license is an official permission or permit to do, use, or own something. It further states that a license is granted by a party to another party as an element of an agreement between those parties. Thank you, Google. So what I like to think of a license is, I use this cake analogy. So before I get into that analogy, let's go ahead and define usage rights, and then we'll go into the nitty-gritty of that. So usage rights, if you Google it, usage rights are rights granted to an individual by an artist to use something for a specific purpose and for a particular period of time. So let's get into the cake analogy. So when I think of licensing and usage rights, think of licensing as the type of cake. So my favorite type of cake is marble cake. But on top of that cake, let's say it's my birthday, I want to add the details to it, right? So licensing is the type of cake that you like. The usage rights is the details that you place on top of that cake. So it's the details within the license you're granting to a brand. So what that looks like in a contract is the license could be a limited license, it could be an exclusive license, and there's so many different types of license you can give to them. But the key here is really the details, the usage rights, right? You don't want to give them complete and full license. You want to give them a full license to your content. You want to give them a limited license and then go into the details of what that limitation looks like in the usage rights or the details of the cake. I hope that makes sense. Let me know in the comment section if that makes sense to you. So those details on the cake and or the usage rights could be how long can the brand use the content, what content can they use, where can they use it, etc. So that's going to be the details of your cake or the details of the usage rights. I hope that makes sense. A lot of times you're really working with two types of licenses here. There are a variety of different ways, you know, there's more than just these, y'all. But usually it's either you're granting them a full license, full and complete, and or you're granting them a limited license. Okay, I hope that was really helpful as far as some of the definitions. There's so many more. So again, let me know if you guys want me to do another video. I'm gonna do it. I don't even know. I'm not asking y'all to tell me. I'm gonna do the video. But tell me what terms you guys are kind of interested in me kind of fleshing out and going into more details on. So let's talk about why you charge for all these elements in the contract, especially usage rights and copyright, ownership, licensing, perpetuity. Why do we charge? So first I want to talk about why we charge in general as creators. Think about it like this. If the brand wanted to do a more traditional advertising and marketing route, they would have to get the studio space, photographer, models, rent out equipment possibly and props, and make sure they have the studio space and the time and all these other elements. Where if they hire a creator, a content creator, or an influencer, it's all kind of done for them, right? So it's like a done for you kind of service. That's what we offer, because a lot of us are our own photographer, or we hire that out, or we have a team, etc., where the brand then only has to worry about paying us, and then we pay whoever else is kind of helping with us, essentially. So it's just a lot more convenient and honestly affordable for a brand to do that. I'm not saying that creators are cheaper. Okay, let's clear that up, because we are quite expensive, as we should be, because of the value that we bring. Because adding on the element of being an influencer, where you have this influence, right? I always like to put it like, if I'm wearing a shirt as opposed to like a model's wearing a shirt, my audience may recognize me, or my family, my friends, and my trusted kind of internet community will see me wearing the shirt and might be more likely to click and purchase, just because it's me and my influence versus the model who is gonna look good. Okay, we ain't hating on Miss Models. Okay, we not. But that's just the nature of the game when it comes to being an influencer. It's the benefit of working with influencers, is that I have a direct voice with subset of audience, with an audience, which is just honestly like a business owner's dream, because you're able to connect with the consumer immediately, directly. So that is why we charge in general. And also, like, our time is valuable, right? If you're working a job, usually are getting paid hourly or salary, whatever the case may be, you're getting paid for the time and the effort that you're putting in. Content creators and influencers should be paid as well. Now, this is why you charge additional fees after you read the contract. Because 9.99999 times out of 10, you are not going to discuss all the nuances that are within the contract in the email thread, right? Think about it like this. If you print out your email thread, it might be maybe 3 pages, but then you get a 20-page contract. I don't know, but the math not mathing, okay? Because there's going to be more things that are in that contract. You want to make sure all the obligations, all your duties and responsibilities are properly compensated for. So you want to thoroughly read that contract and understand how you can leverage the nuances within that contract to get some additional fees within reason, right? The goal isn't to try to get over on the brand. That's not why I talk so much about rates and the importance of negotiating and all those things. It's so that the creators are aware, because 9.9 out of 10, the brands have a little bit more access, right? Y'all, they have a little bit more of a network when it comes to like the legalities and contracts and payments and all those things than a lot of creators do. Because sometimes creators wake up one day, they go viral, and all of a sudden, like, they're making this money and they're getting these opportunities, these contracts, and they're like, child, I don't know who Perpetuity is, but child, I want to work with this brand, I'm excited. So my goal is to make sure that my fellow creators and influencers are just well aware and understand what they're doing and what they're signing. Because at the end of the day, it is a legally binding document. And let's just say, Lord forbid, something happens and you get a complaint, or you get a notice or a cease and desist letter because maybe you're infringing on the copyright or a patent or whatever that you didn't even know existed. You want to make sure you at least went into the contract with some knowledge, like, okay, it won't be coming left field, like, what is this? I'm saying, I'm laughing because it ain't funny, but like, it has happened. I literally had a client receive a cease and desist letter because she was infringing on someone's patent. It gets real out here, okay? This is real stuff. Okay, I think I went on a tangent, but you charge additional fees once you see the contract, like I was saying, because there's just going to be more that they're going to be requiring you to do. So I always suggest to my clients is, once you kind of get to the end of the email thread before they send the contract, and maybe you give them like a rate, let them know that that rate is contingent on the contract terms, that you do charge additional fees for a variety of other things, but you'll be able to accurately tell them what that rate will be once you see the contract. Because sure, they can say, hey, we want 7 days exclusivity, we want this usage rights, we want this whitelisting, etc. But once you see the contract, you can say something different, right? You can say something completely different. And sometimes it's no fault of the person that you're talking to about the contract. Sometimes it's no fault of yours, no fault of the management, the agency. It's just a miscommunications between maybe the legal team, and everyone's not quite understanding what the contract means. So that's why it's so important for you to thoroughly read it and actually understand it if you don't outsource it. And same thing for agencies and brands. If you guys are watching this, seek help, please, because I want everyone to be in a mutual agreement with the partnerships. That's the goal. I want it to be a healthy relationship between us creators and brands. It shouldn't be this hostile thing. It should be a partnership, a true partnership. The moments you all have been waiting for. How to figure out your rates loosely, okay? Let me just start with this. Ask for their budget first. I'm gonna run that back one more time. Let me ask for their budget first. I had a friend tell me, ask for their budget first, because when she gave her initial rate, the person politely, by the grace of God, and she didn't have to do it, said, hey sis, listen, the budget is this. So I'm gonna ask you again for your rate, because what you said was not anywhere close to where we at. So you don't want to leave money on the table. So if you're new to this, honestly, I don't care what stage of creator you are in, ask for their budget. And if they insist on your rate, sure, but also tell them it's contingent on the contract. Keep saying that no matter what, but ask for the budget, and also know that they may not come out the gate. Let's say they have a $10,000 budget, right? They might not say our budget is $10,000. Because also, we got to understand, it's a negotiation, right? Best business practice on both ends. For the brand, it wouldn't be for them to be like, hey, we got $10,000. I think it would be better for them to say, maybe in a more healthy range of that $10,000. Because a lot of times where brands fall short is they say, oh, our budget is $200, knowing dang well it's $10,000. That's way off, and that's a problem. So I always say, usually you can double or triple it, sometimes even more, whatever budget the brand tells you initially. But like I said, some brands say $200 when it's $10,000, and they'd be like, butterfly in the sky. Like, what is happening? Like, why do y'all do that? Sorry, side note. But yeah, so creators, make sure you ask for the brand's budget first, but don't let that deter you from telling them your rate. If your rate is a lot higher than that, because it's very possible they're trying to lowball you. Period. So once you ask for their budget, calculate that and figure out, okay, am I able to get more out of this? Do I need to get more? If it's right on my marker as far as my goal for this partnership, then I can accept it. Don't always just try to get more just for the sake of getting more. If their budget is $10,000 and your rate for the deliverables they're asking is $10,000, it's okay sometimes to just accept that. Also still contingent on the contract, because you may get more depending on what additional things are in the contract, but don't be afraid to just agree. Sometimes it doesn't have to be a pushback, right? But if their budget is $10,000 and what they're asking for, which is everything under the sun, and your rate should be $50,000, don't be afraid to tell them that too. But a good practice with negotiating, get your notes. A good practice when negotiating is to go higher than the rate you actually want to walk away with, because you want to give yourself some room to negotiate. If your goal number is $1,000, don't tell the brand $1,000 just because, just like we said, if their goal is that $10,000, they're not going to tell you $10,000. 9.99 times out of 10. Are there nuances? Of course. It always depends. The lawyer in me has to say, of course, it's going to depend. But standard practice, kind of the standard nuances when it comes to negotiating, is that's a really good strategy, is to go higher so you can get to your number, and they're going to start lower so they can kind of get to a number for themselves as well. So don't be afraid to start a little bit higher. I wouldn't say, if your goal is 1,000, I wouldn't say come out the gate 10,000. Whoa, this might be too much. Come on now, be realistic. But maybe you go 3 times the amount that you actually want, or 2 times the amount that you actually want. So you give yourself some space to negotiate, and who knows, you might actually get more. So I know you guys are like, I hear what you're saying, girl. We want to talk numbers, talk about numbers. So I'm going to give you guys ranges because I'm under some contracts, so I can't give exact numbers, but I'm going to give you a range. The lowest that I've accepted has been lower than $500 for one collaboration, lower than $500. I had to weigh the options, right? I had to weigh the benefit of that, because for me, it was extremely beneficial because I loved them. I was already using them. It was in my regular use of life. And then also I get access to some free stuff. They've been really helpful. Also, they don't really kind of care how I present the deliverables, which is super important to me because it gives me that flexibility. So less than $500 has been my lowest. My highest has been this year in 2022. Between 10,000 and 20,000. That's a large range. Okay, we'll just say between 10,000 and 20,000 for a collaboration with a brand. So it ranges. As you see, that's a large spectrum, and there's some nuances in between there depending on the usage, right? Exclusivity and the type of deliverables and what platforms and all that. But I just want to give you guys kind of like a range. So it's a huge range. And with my platforms, I'd say I'm a micro influencer depending on, how you're calculating the platforms together, etc. That's a whole different video. But yeah, so that gives you a range. Lowest has been under $500. Highest has been between $10,000 and $20,000. So that's kind of where I'm at. But let me tell you how I calculate my rates and how I would suggest you doing so. Before, I used to say 10 to 20% is a good percentage to start off with your following. We're in a new era. I'm gonna say 20 to 30%. And I'm saying that because now businesses are leaning even more into influencer marketing. Can you start at that $10,000 or 10% of your following? Absolutely. But now I don't think there's anything wrong with starting at that 20 to 30%, especially for those of you that are a little bit nervous with negotiating some of the usage rights, exclusivity, and the other things that you might want to tack on. If you're starting a little bit higher with that base price, then you have a little bit more flexibility if you don't want to kind of fight over the usage and exclusivity. I still think you should at least mention it and try to see if you can get that additional fee because you deserve it, and you should. But I would definitely say start at that 20 to 30% of your following, and then from there on you start to write down, and this is all internal, right? You want to see the breakdown on the back end, so when you do get those collaborations, which you will, you don't have to be like, I don't know where I'm going to find the rate. You have like a calculation of how you calculate your rates. That's also beneficial if you have an assistant that's helping you. Later on you get management, you can kind of ask them questions and pick their brain about how they decided on your rates. Just be involved. I'm all about being able to do the positions that I hire for as an entrepreneur. That has been so beneficial for me because I can, one, accurately give them help and guidance and structure when I am hiring someone, but also I can ask the right questions because I've done it, and I can really point out when there's a problem because I know what it's supposed to look like or what my goal would be for it to look like. And then if someone's not meeting that expectation, I can point it out a little bit better because I've done it. So that's kind of like a little side entrepreneurship tip. Make sure that you at least understand the positions that you're hiring for. Sure, like I have an accountant, I might not understand that completely, but I did do my taxes before I had her. So things like that really, really just help when you're an entrepreneur, and creators are entrepreneurs. A lot of us are doing a lot of other businesses, multiple streams of income. I don't care who you are, you should have multiple streams of income, but again, that's another video for another day. I hope that was helpful, that little side tip. As far as pricing those additional fees, again, we're going to go back to that 20 to 30%. Remember, we're writing all this down for internal use. So we're going to start with that base, 20 to 30% of following. Then we're going to say, okay, we're going to have different packages that we're able to give brands. For me, if I work with a brand more than 3 months, I'm going to throw in some extra little freebies, right? So I might throw in 1 month of free usage rights, because if I'm going to be working with them for 3 months, that little 30-day package is going to be really nice because I already know I want them to promote me like I'm going to promote them because we work together for 3 months, right? So that's something that I sometimes do. Also, maybe I throw in some exclusivity. Let's say the brand wants exclusivity for 30 days. I might say, okay, here's my rate for that. However, I'll throw in, the first 2 weeks for free so we can have a little bit, more of an affordable rate for the brand if they're kind of pushing budget. So when they are, let's say that your rate is so much higher than their budget, try to negotiate the deliverables. And that's why you're able to do this when you have those calculations on the back end. I suggest with exclusivity, usually it's more of like a weekly price. Sometimes it's monthly, but I usually have like a weekly price. Again, 20, 30%, whatever that flat fee kind of base price is, that's where I get these other percentages. So if you do 20, 30% of your following and it's $1,000, then you would take the other percentages from that particular fee. So usage rights, if they want usage rights for 3 to 6 months, maybe you have a 3-month package, a 6-month package, or maybe they want like per month packages, right? So kind of an a la carte. Again, you're using that base following to kind of get that. Sometimes you can add it all together and then, start to do percentages in different ways, but that's just kind of how I do it. I use that base fee. I hope this makes sense. I actually just realized as I'm talking about this, I should just do a whole video on rates. Yeah. So yeah, guys, that is pretty much it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. Don't forget to thumbs up this video if you did enjoy it. Leave me some comments down below. Don't forget to share this video with your family, friends, and colleagues. Make sure you guys subscribe to my channel for more on the legal tea. I know I have a separate YouTube channel for the legal tea, but y'all, as of right now, I'm putting everything on the Cumberland channel because it just seems easier. So definitely leave me any comments below of some video requests you guys want to see from the legal tea. I want to get into it. I want to get into the nuances of the influencer marketing industry because, listen, it's not going anywhere, okay? And honestly, I feel like influencer and content creator are really about to be people's career goals as far as students going to college and getting out of high school to desire to really navigate this industry as a profession. So stay tuned for more. And for those of you that don't know, I always end my videos with an affirmation. So if you made it this far in the video, comment below, I am the artist of my life. And what I mean by that is you can cultivate a life that you desire. Whether you want to be a full-time content creator, whether you want to be a boss babe, whether you want to climb the corporate ladder and just navigate that space, no matter what you want to do, I'm going to run it back one time for the one time. Comment below this affirmation. I am the artist of my life. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in my next one. Later.